So pardon the Zoom. There we go. Well, so thank you all so much for introducing yourselves. So we're going to kick this off with some predetermined questions, and then from there we'll again have Q&A toward the end. So feel free to get those questions in the chat. So the first question, which I will throw to the team at Mariana, is really what are the barriers and opportunities for media and technology to drive ocean access and understanding?
Well, I'll go ahead and jump on this one, Daniel. Thank you. So as someone who's been working in the media industry for a long time, I've seen that there are some barriers and opportunities for media and technology. And I think that one of those first barriers is when you take into account how quickly technology is changing, how quickly media platforms are changing, I think not adapting to those changes and taking your audience into consideration is definitely a barrier. But with all of that change and growth, there's opportunities. And I think that one of the ways to drive ocean access and understanding is for media companies and technology companies to present information in multiple ways to meet their audiences where they are. To say, well, some people are visual learners, some people like podcasts, some people want to read something in a book, and understanding that and taking that into consideration, I think that media companies and technology companies have so many opportunities right now to create content to meet audiences where they are. And that's very, very exciting because there's so many platforms today to present information in creative and inspiring ways to help inspire ocean understanding and ocean action.
Yeah, I think we've definitely seen that consumers' attention spans are shorter and shorter, which certainly brings a set of challenges because these are not simple concepts. Although I think at Mariana Media, part of what we're trying to do is simplify and make the messages and the concepts that we want to share as digestible as possible. So translating complex themes into short, snackable bites certainly comes with challenges, but I think one of the opportunities is that now that consumers have such short attention spans, the types of content that really can grab attention is incredibly cheap to create. The zero marginal cost of building content is extremely low, or I should say the marginal cost is close to zero. And so I think we see that as an opportunity, and we want to use these platforms to share those messages.
And throwing it over to Phil and Rovon, how about you? How do you see both these barriers and opportunities, maybe more on the technological side for ocean access and understanding?
You're 100% right. There's so little access to the ocean it's mind blowing. It's weird to me because I'm in a tech industry. And everything you see above the waterline, there's just cameras everywhere, but it just stops at the waterline, period. You can't find anything to see 100 feet below your boat. It's insane. So that has to change. We have to get technology into this industry.
Yeah, and I love to say, people don't even know we've explored more of the moon and Mars than we have our own oceans, and a lot of that does deep sea. So I think it's interesting from both sides, hearing both of you guys as far as both the educational side of from any part of the spectrum of media, how people aren't aware of the opportunity, and on the other side, the technology isn't even reaching it to begin with. So that brings us to our next question, which is what makes your solution unique in helping to build knowledge and access to the ocean? Throw it back to the team at Mariana.
So yeah, I can give just a little background on who we are and what we're attempting to do. The four of us met through Seaworthy Collective, and I think part of the magic of our community is that we have a group of individuals that have a shared vision, which is create a regenerative blue economy and save our ocean, and complementary skill sets, right? We all approach that goal with different ways, in different ways, I should say. And so after volunteering with each other and getting to know each other for a while, we realized, hey, wait a second, the four of us have skill sets that actually work quite well together. Angela working in PR and comms, Rachel as an editor, Ashley as an illustrator, and me as just, I guess, a marketer. But we kind of decided like, hey, let's put, by our powers combined, what is something that we'd be able to just create, let's follow our energy. Let's see what, let's see what we can do that's going to be exciting and interesting and fun. And so we had the idea to let's come up with a children's book. My wife and I just had a kid, and she's 9 months old. So I've been reading a lot of baby books and thinking to myself, there's not that many words on each of these pages. They're not that, they must not be that difficult to write. Of course, that was naive of me to say at the time. We've gone through a series of rewrites, but that just kind of led to us coming together and saying like, yes, I think we all understand, we're in the circle of trust here, that we are kind of, I think we're kind of moving into some hard times, to put it lightly, I would say. At least that's what a lot of the statistics and research is telling us. And so, we need to adapt our storytelling. We all believe in the power of storytelling, and we want it to be as impactful as possible. And we felt like, the current stories that are out there are kind of doing younger generations a disservice by viewing, or I should say, painting these kind of narratives with rose-colored lenses. And so, what would it look like if there was a group that was brave enough to tell stories that are maybe a little bit difficult, that are kind of more, I don't know if raw is the right word, but like stories of resilience, stories of collaboration and cooperation, stories that are going to help prepare people for what is looking more and more like a very uncertain future. So I think that's kind of our ethos and what we'd like to put in market, or at least test in market. And that's what we're aiming to do with our first product, which is our children's book, to just see if there's market demand for that kind of narrative.
Awesome. Anyone else from the team want to chime in, or should we throw it over to Phil?
I forgot what the question was.
It's what makes your solution unique in helping to build knowledge and access. Yeah, go for it.
Oh, no, go. Your team's first.
I think they're all done with their sides. Go ahead.
I think Ben summed that up really nicely.
Yeah, he did. What? Let me look again here. You know what? Come back to me on that. Let me answer that one later.
All right. Well, if I can tell you from my side, what I think makes your solution a little unique is the simplicity of it. If you want to start there, I think that is the hill.
Well, I mean, there's just nothing out there for anybody in marine research to even see below them, which is absurd. So we built the technology, and it's just extremely simple to operate. But that's pretty much about it on it.
You want to explain a little bit more about your technology, Phil?
So we took current technology and we put it in its own housing, which creates a live view, which the end user can lower to the bottom of the ocean. So around 100 to 150 meters is probably the max we're going to allow the consumer to go. Currently, there's really nothing out there. You have to go to a GoPro or an ROV, and GoPros are not live, and ROVs are too complex, so nobody wants them. So there's nothing in between. So we kind of bridge that gap with the technology.
Yeah, and for those who don't know what ROVs are, recovering marine roboticist here, it's a remotely operated vehicle, basically. That's what ROV stands for. And so this point that Phil's bringing up is to say that that's way too complicated for people. And at the same time, I think you did a great job of mentioning GoPro being very limited and unchanged. So appreciate that. All right, well, I will throw it to you, Phil, for this next one to kick us off. So, at Seaworthy, we talk about building these systems of solutions that work together and synergize to help build, economies and systems of solutions. So how do you see your technology working in coordination with some of the other solutions, either in our community or beyond?
I view my technology a little differently than probably you guys do. To you, it's new and exciting. To me, it's kind of old news. It's kind of, beyond it. I look at it as like an elevator door. And everybody knows what that means. You go into an apartment or hotel, you get into an elevator, go up, doors open, now you're in a hallway. And down that hallway are all these other doors. That's where the real innovation starts with my technology. So you understand that?
Yeah, I think it's to say it's about, you know, and this is actually a great point about what innovation is. It's not necessarily about the technology itself as much as how it's implemented. Say.
I mean, even just listening to that description, Phil, I think, you know, from our standpoint as storytellers, I think, you know, at least personally, I can say that I've already seen so much inspiration from the amount of like nature documentaries that are available. So, for example, National Geographic has a 4-part series called Secrets of the Whales, and the amount of footage that they capture. And just watching these animals interact and the little dramas and comedies that are playing out in their natural world actually acts as really important inspiration for when we're trying to anthropomorphize those stories and kind of translate them. And again, it's like, yes, there are really interesting values and messages that are being shared in the nature documentary, but you know, we already talked about people's attention spans these days. Are they going to want to sit for an hour-long docuseries? Well, you know, maybe that there's a way to kind of to adapt that story and to tell it in a different way. And so just by having more cameras out there deployed, that means more content that's potentially captured, more biodiversity that we can draw inspiration from, so that we can really you know, we can really translate those stories for a broader audience. So yeah, I'm really excited.
The content creation people, they're so small. They are just a tiny group of people, and there's just not enough. You have to have an army to do what. If you want to explore the ocean, you're going to need an army. They need technology to do it.
Well, and we can't protect what we don't understand. I think that's the biggest piece, right? And so we don't understand it because no one's down there with cameras creating live views into the ocean. Or yeah, so back. I'm just reinforcing all your guys' points. I will throw back to the Mariana Media team as far as some of these systems of solutions that you guys are looking yourselves into. You know, what opportunities are you guys seeing in the community and beyond?
So so I think one of the things that we are attempting to use as a differentiator for our company is thinking about our supply chain from the ground up with sustainability as a core focus. So identifying, you know, what are the different materials providers, manufacturers, printers, shippers who are doing things in a way that we agree with, that we think are going to be, you know, carbon neutral or carbon positive. I don't know if that's the right terminology, but you get what I'm trying to say. Things that are going to be regenerative in some nature. And so what we're doing is we're sourcing and evaluating those startups that we can integrate into in this case, the publishing of a book. With the idea being that we're creating a value chain stack of companies that are vetted and positively, negatively, that we want to get behind, so that potentially other companies that come through a future Seaworthy cohort who maybe have an actual product that they're trying to launch, we will be able to make those recommendations, so they don't have to boil the ocean right from the get-go. We've already done at least step one to get them there, so that we can say, hey, here's some recommended partners. So just as a quick example, we met with a great company, Living Inc., that Daniel, you met with at the Aspen Ideas conference. What they're doing is they identified a need where, you know, every product that you have in your house uses this carbon black pigment, which is made out of petroleum. And so what they're doing is they're building a substitute called algae black, which is made out of algae. So what we're going to do is buy his algae black Living Inc. product, and we're going to use that to print our first run of children's books. So things like that. We're really excited to just kind of see how they can all come together to build one product.
Yeah, and I think that's something that I don't think people have even realized, kind of the level of granularity that you can get to on building your supply chain, and we say value chain, right? And I do think there is that mindfulness to the consumer side where, I love to kind of existential and say, is it on the consumer? Is it on the system? But if we can kind of go for both, there's some real benefit there for everybody. Win-win. I'm not sure, Phil, did you have anything else you wanted to expand on as far as kind of that army effect, or are you feel?
No, I think I got it across.
Yeah. Well, and I will say too, just to further your point, actually, Phil, I love basically VR and photogrammetry, and I think that's a huge opportunity for you there too, as the more people that we can get, right? Building digital twins of the ocean, stuff like that.
Oh yeah. That and the Pterodeath guy who's doing building Google Earth underwater. So there's just that's a lot of data. You get millions of these cameras out there. That's a lot of data that's got to go somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I think to your point, what is a perfect lead into our next question, which I will throw back to the Mariana team, is how you see your solution and the systems of solutions scaling to drive broader ocean and climate impact. I think, Ashley, you're going to chime in on this one.
Yes. So first off, education is such like a powerful tool, especially in regards to youth. And when I'm thinking of informal education, you have so much ability to be creative, especially with literature and illustration. So I really love the idea of starting off with books. But the most powerful thing is that we're reaching out toward youth. Youth have very easygoing minds and the ability to change and grow with life. The older you are, the more stuck in your ways you are. But with children, you can teach them at a young age to kind of learn these environmentally positive habits and behaviors that will last a lifetime. And one thing about youth, what they do when they learn something so exciting is that they spread the word. They tell their families, they tell their friends, I just read this amazing book, you should check it out. Parents are reading these books to their children. So not only is the child being educated, but also the parent that's reading it. So you have the ability to not only educate youth through children's literature, but adults as well. And I just think it's such a powerful tool, especially in regards to advocacy. So when we think about climate change and ocean degradation and just environmental degradation as a whole, youth are on the front lines. They've been experiencing this their entire lives, they've been impacted by it their whole life. So they're very passionate about ocean and climate advocacy right now, and they need the tools to learn more so they can be better advocates. And through media and children's books, we provide that tool of education. Not only that, with media, it lasts a lifetime. So we're not only growing with children by growing up our books with them, by changing our words and changing the degree of language and being more complex with our stories, even changing to movies or short animation stories or whatever the case may be. We can grow with these children as they age, but also our books that start with youth can be for youth in generations to come, because they'll be here forever and always be accessible to anyone. And so I love the idea of starting out with books because, a book doesn't have to be for one person. It's available to everyone. And it provides a resource for students who might not have that in their communities. Like I knew growing up, I didn't have that much access to environmental resources. So being able to create that for youth today, so children like me when I was young won't have to experience that, is how we grow and how we can scale up and drive broader ocean and climate impact.
I love that. And just to further your point a little bit, Ashley, I know how important it is as far as not only that these, books and resources reach, underserved communities, but at the same time that I know a lot of the creative work you guys are doing is also making sure that they're actually represented in the materials you guys are making. And what better way to scale impact than actually inspiring and involving people that historically have not had the opportunity to be part of creating that impact in the first place. So just echoing your points there. I'll throw it over to you, Phil. So again, the question is, how do you see your solution and these systems of solutions scaling to drive broader ocean and climate?
Yeah. I think we talked about this before. There's millions of offshore fishing guys, millions of these guys, and they have kids, and they all take their kids with them. Kids get bored. Kids get really bored on a boat really quick. This gives them technology so they can see what's 300 feet below that boat, which is right up their alley. Because every kid is all everything is just video, TikTok. My God, it's insane. It puts it on their level, because we got to reel in some of these kids to get involved in the ocean. We just have to, otherwise we're going to be dying a slow death here. So,
well, and correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I'm no TikTok influencer by any means, and no one wants to really see that. But what I will say is, I do think that as we talk about content generation and especially youth leading that, especially on TikTok these days, to me, it's providing an avenue for them to do that in new and more ways, and immersive, no pun intended. So I think that's all really critical there. We have one more question before getting to our Q&A. So if those of you who have been hanging out in the background want to get any questions in, feel free to jump in the chat. Otherwise, we'll open it up. But the last question, which I will throw over to you, Phil, is what advice do you have for current and aspiring blue and climate tech entrepreneurs looking to fight climate change and ocean degradation with innovation, media, and even technology?
Don't quit your day job. It is difficult. I am not gonna lie. This is probably the most challenging thing I've ever done in my life, is trying to do this. But man, if you believe in it, stick with it. Stick with your guns. That's it. Go big or go home.
Yeah, I think I just want to echo, it is definitely the most challenging thing, but persistence does pay off, and I think we are at a really amazing inflection point in history where we don't have a choice, but more importantly, the stories, and I love seeing what Patricia just put in the chat. What you guys are doing, the examples you're setting, is exactly what we need to get more people in this space and move the needle further. I'll throw it over to Mariana team.
Yeah, I'll jump in on this one. I would say don't be afraid to use your unique skills. I always thought I couldn't get involved in the ocean space because I had an English degree and I was coming from a literary background. But now with Mariana Media, I can put those skills to use, and everyone can help in this space. And Ben shared a really interesting Venn diagram with me here. I'll put it in the chat on climate action. So check it out.
Yeah, I love this. It's from, sorry. Just really quick, the Venn diagram here is from Dr. Ayanna Johnson, where she basically lays out a way for anyone to get involved. It's like, what brings you joy? What are you good at? And what work needs doing? If you find the center of that Venn diagram, then that's a good place to start.
I believe the concept is like ikigai, right? Ikigai. I'm totally mispronouncing it, right? But absolutely, we need these opportunities. And what I love about Mariana Media is doing is this is literally showing how people without the marine science background can actually come together and build something that's going to create really scalable and potentially massive ocean and climate impact, and that's really exciting. So love to see our team leading by example. All right, well, go ahead, Angela. Sorry.
No, yeah, it's okay. I just wanted to say, I was reading Patricia's comment on, feeling isolated, and then, there's another comment about, feeling lonely. And I think that, number one, that's like really the power of these types of organizations like Seaworthy Collective, because it just brings all of these people together. As someone who has a business, I understand like how isolating it can be and lonely and things of that nature. But when you find a community of people that are passionate about the topic, want to get involved somehow, or already doing something, connecting with them is just super, super important. And I also think that Don't be shy about sharing your passion for the ocean on your own social media channels, because you'll find people that will see your content and will want to reach out to you. You know, we have this great Discord community that Ben's really, you know, was definitely been a part of kind of getting off the ground. And there really are people out there, such as people in this Zoom right now, that are very passionate about this. And while it might feel lonely at times, feel isolating at times, there's definitely a community out there. So I think, you know, being vocal about your passion, sharing your passion just in your own personal social media, and participating in these exact type of organizations and discussions, I think is an incredible way to start getting momentum on impact and on solutions, and in building that camaraderie.
I love the expression, it takes a village. And the village, I think, is a good synonym for community. And that's why we exist. It's to be that village and to help, you know, not only inspire and show the personal resilience that it takes to do this work, but more importantly, help bring people and resources together to help you make it happen. And that's the core of it. So I do want to open things up. So if you guys do have any questions or comments to make, feel free to raise your hand. Zoom raise hand tool, just under reactions, or just feel free to jump in and unmute. But other than that, we can kind of toss it back to our startups if there's anything else you guys wanted to share in the meantime. Oh, actually, Jerry, do you want to? I mean, there's the open floor today. So, Jerry, if you want to jump in and share a little bit, you're more than welcome. we can get existential. That a lot at Seaworthy.
Oh, sorry about that. Yes. No, I was just saying that I'm really feeling, you know, the community aspect of the collective today, because, you know, everyone's talking about the impacts of entrepreneurship being incredibly isolating, and this being such a great environment. And we're talking about the impact on youth and the impact on education, and the impact of educating. So both those viewpoints contributing such a big effect. I'm really feeling the love here. So I personally wanted to just express that point, because I talk about these issues both from, you know, both from an ocean, the blue tech and the green tech perspectives. And there are situations where people are still telling me, you know, you're thinking too much about this, you're overthinking it. And I'm going, we're not thinking about it enough. So just grateful that we're able to have these conversations, and that we're having, you know, realistic conversations about what we're expecting. And it's something that Ben mentioned earlier, I think, just about the overall resilience, but also about the realistic impacts of what we're seeing in real time. So just wanted to express that.
Thanks for sharing, Jerry. Yeah, I think in some way or another, we all got involved in Seaworthy Collective because we've experienced some form of climate anxiety. You know, some may be greater than others. I can only speak for myself. I think about it all the time. It's difficult because you know, it's a tough conversation to broach with people without feeling like a Debbie Downer all the time. You know, it's also difficult when you become the climate guy, you know, like now my friends and family all know that I'm the one who cares about this stuff. And I'm like, why am I the only one who, like, you live on this planet too, but now it's kind of like, okay, now that I'm the climate guy, everyone thinks, oh, Ben will love this article about like the degradation of our rainforest. So now I'm getting like even more like doomer content. And it's like, I can't read all this stuff. It's just like, it's setting me down this spiral. But what I've found that has been really, really helpful, and again, to your point, it's finding this space, this community where people are able to connect and say, okay, we all feel this way. Now let's come up with simple, elegant, innovative solutions, because that's what, for me at least, has made me feel much, you know, it has assuaged a lot of my climate anxiety when I see like, wow, that is so cool. Like there are some really smart people that are doing some amazing things, and like that gives me hope, and that is so important, because it's very easy to just see this confluence of climate, geopolitical, economic, you name it, issues that are all kind of coming together at once and not feel negative about it. So I try very hard to maintain a mindset of pragmatic optimism.
I have to say, Ben, I feel that very much, because in learning all about climate science, it was like difficult to stay out of a pit of despair as you hear all the things that can and will go wrong. So I have a lot of little projects that I work on to help spread that positivity in the best way I can, just sharing what solutions exist. So I was wondering if you and your team could talk a little bit more about how Mariana Media will approach it, that issue of avoiding causing more anxiety, especially for young kids. They get a lot of that. So you want to be, not sugarcoat it and be honest, but how do you keep it from getting depressing?
Well, I'll jump in quickly to say, and I think Rachel and everyone else has thoughts on this, because we talk about this, and in the creation of our first book, we really talked about what is the message, right? What are we at the end of the day really trying to do? And one of the things, not to give any I don't want to give away our fun story just yet. I'm not going to spoil alert here, but what I think is important is to show, to have a hopeful message. You can talk about hard things, and then also say, but here's the solution. Here's how different humans, different sea life, different whatever can come together. That was a hint towards a book. Can come together to build, to fix, to find a solution, to collaborate, to overcome, to be resilient. So yeah, I think we do talk about difficult things. We don't sugarcoat, bad things happening, because bad things happen every single day, right? And so we look at it from, but how do we show the positivity in that? And in many cases, sometimes a bad thing brings people together in really inspiring and positive ways. And it talks about community, and it talks about, how you can bring these elements together, bring these people together to solve a problem, and to be there for each other, and to support each other, and to get through hard feelings of sadness, of loss. Because that is, I think, the end messages: community, resiliency, collaboration, and hope.
Thank you.
I don't want to compare us to David Attenborough, but I'm reminded of his most recent film where it was so devastating to watch, but then he ended on such a message of hope. And so it's being able to take away that hope despite all of the horrible things that are happening. That's what we're aiming for.
I like that feeling of building up the generation to say, you get to be the ones to fix this.
But at the same time, these are urgent challenges that, there's also the element of, we are the ones we've been waiting for, so it is, what is our, again, I go back to that Venn diagram. What's the thing that I can bring to the table? What's the thing that I want to focus on that needs doing? And then approaching it with that mindset.
Exactly. Everyone has a role to play in the solution. Every right. Single person. And I think that's a hopeful message, because we're not hopeless. Each and every one of us can do something.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, I think that's the connective tissue between both of you guys, is all that I hear is to say, how do we democratize access to ocean impact? Right? Whether it's creating knowledge actually it's creating knowledge from multiple different angles, right? And so I'm just curious, and I'll throw it over to Phil on this one too. How do you see, when you have this army of cameras, cameramen out and women out there, how are we, what can we do with all this?
With all that data, I think the first one is the most important is the fisheries. I mean, I've spoken to FWC and they do a lot of data collection different ways. And one of it is they just ask questions. They try ROVs, but there's really no accurate data for ways for them to get data. So I think that's probably one of the most critical things.
There's definitely an ocean of data out there. I know, Patricia, you wanted to jump in and ask a question. I'll let you go ahead and unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Team Seaworthy. This has been awesome. My professor was Manuel Maqueda, so he was on one of your first ones, and then I've been hooked ever since. So I'm really grateful to have discovered you guys. On a very basic level, I put in the chat, I'm starting a business myself in a startup in climate and tech, and I have a team together, but what we're struggling to find is like a CFO. And I was wondering if anyone has suggestions on where to seek that out when you're just beginning a business and you don't really have the financials to, go and steal one away from another company or something like that.
Daniel, I think you're the only one here who's attracted a CFO.
Well, okay. I think we can go two ways with this question. First, I'll touch specifically on CFO, but I think in general, and this is where we can expand out to the rest of the team, is just how you build an interdisciplinary team. Specific to the CFO, this is part of, and I know earlier we said meeting people where they're at. It's important, to get in kind of on the ground level of maybe there's a local business school that you can reach out to and try to put your opportunities out on their listserv. Because a lot of folks with CFO backgrounds never have the opportunity to do this kind of work, and they should hopefully have the passion to do something about this, right? And so it's just finding that intersectional opportunity, especially early on in a startup where they can have so much more impact. That can help drive that. So I would say just trying to meet where they're at is the best advice there.
Thank you.
I think I can add to that, Daniel, because we talk so much about community, and that's exactly, when someone finds out that a community exists, that people are working on such things, then they join and then they're there, and you just have to put out the ask, make it like, this is something we need. And generally, if there's someone with that skill set, they'll jump at it. We have a couple of volunteers with good financial backgrounds that are so excited to put it to positive use. So
okay, great, thank you.
Ben put some good links there.
Yeah, I'm dropping some job boards. I don't know if you may be familiar with these, but just a couple of resources.
I really appreciate it, you guys. Thank you.
Of course. And yes, as Tamara says, our Discord server.
I think I'm on it. I think I just signed up the other day.
Great. Welcome aboard. We're working on redoing the server architecture so that it's more intuitive. We recognize that for a lot of people, when they're joining our server, it's also the first time joining Discord. And so we want to make it as simple as possible. One of the changes that we're making is integrating a reciprocity channel where you can post an ask and other people can respond to that ask if they can fulfill it. And it could be anything from I'm looking for a CFO to I'm going to South Africa and I want to see penguins. Does anyone know where I can go see penguins? So just as a way for people to kind of bounce off of each other in unique ways and grow their network within our community.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
This is a collaboration in action. I guess just to add on a little bit to Patricia's question, I'll throw to all you guys. in general, when it comes to interdisciplinary team building, which both of you have, both organizations have kind of been on this journey during the cohort, how have you gone about either initializing collaboration, seeking out potential team members, and most importantly, finding ways to keep people around? I'll throw it over to Phil first, because I know you've had an interesting experience with Chase, and then maybe Seaworthy team, we can talk about a little bit of what it's been like to literally co-create a team together. Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, it's kind of, I'm in a weird area because we're so specific, so niche. I find a lot of my contacts from like Netflix, not Netflix, sorry, YouTube. I find them that they currently already put their own cameras down there, but nobody's live. Like there's a guy, where's that? Lake Mead. What, I don't know, sure, is that California? Like he drops to the bottom of Lake Mead, which is really deep. It's like 1,700 feet. But the guys who help me with prototyping, they do the same thing. One's a underwater cinematographer, and the other one's a offshore fishing guy. So they run the prototypes. So that's basically kind of where I get my connections from, and they all jump on board to help with volunteering. So.
And then I'm just curious, for Mariana team, how's it been, literally enacting this leveraging of unique skill sets to come together?
I think
I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, we all have very complementary skills, so it's been working really well. We each bring something very different to the table. Yeah.
Well, and just go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, we all share, like I said, when you get a group of people together that share the same values and have different methods of approaching those values, then it's exciting to see what can come about from that. And I always think of this quote that I can't take credit for, but I can't remember who originally said it. It was like, we don't need a handful of people trying to tackle climate change perfectly. We need millions of people tackling it imperfectly. And I think that's kind of, that mantra, I guess, has kind of allowed us all to bring a sense of humility to this project, where we don't know what's going to be successful, because none of us have written a children's book before, and none of us have some of us are founders already, and so we defer to the folks that know best on the topics that kind of are in their wheelhouse, and I think we're not afraid to fail. I mean, Phil said earlier, don't quit your day job. None of us have. This is very much something that we've been doing in the in-between time, because it's fun. It's been really fun to brainstorm what a story like this could look like and see it come to life. So I think it's a proof of concept for the Seaworthy collective community, and I don't think that there was anything magical about the four of us that came together. It was just, we all were looking for an outlet for our climate anxiety. We found Seaworthy Collective, meaning we found each other, and we did something. And so I think that's kind of where we're at right now, is like, what we've been doing as a society clearly has not been working. And so all bets are off. We might as well try something new. And I think having that mentality is actually very liberating. It's kind of like, well, you know what? Let's just see. Let's see how it goes. The stakes, although the stakes could not be higher for something like this, it feels like they really couldn't be any lower, if that makes any sense. But it's kind of helpful, I think.
Well, and I just want to say, from an even bigger picture approach, right? Like, where have been these collision course spaces, right? Where is this opportunity to just prototype and go for it, right? And one of the culture changes that we're fighting for, that we're exemplifying here, is the fact that perfection is the enemy of progress, which I know Ben has loved hearing me say for the first time in a long time. But it truly is, when we talk about, especially folks coming out of academia and doing PhD work, there is this pressure that it has to be absolutely perfect for it to come out of the lab, right? Or that you have to have proven it a million times over before it ever can actually start to go to market. So what if it fails? That is the innovation mentality. And that and climate have not really had much intersection point because the culture hasn't changed. And because if anything, it's a self-perpetuating system, but I won't go too deep down that rabbit hole. I'll leave it at, we need these community points. We need these intersection points that allow us to collaborate and allow us to risk it, even if it means keeping our day jobs because we're finding fulfillment. And at Seaworthy's end is to say, hey, look, if this can get enough legs and if we can give it enough partners and advisors and pieces to give it credibility, then maybe we can get a grant or an investor or even a Web3 tokenomics funded opportunity. So all these different pieces are what goes into building an early stage ecosystem that hasn't really existed much in the ocean space and in the climate space as well. And these are the kinds of things we need to be thinking about as we really change the system. So I just want to echo everybody's points there. I think we have time for one more question to jump in. Otherwise, I'll let us get some final points in otherwise. But I know, Susan, I don't mean to call you up. I know you're with Ocean Exchange, so I'm sure you're new on the job, but I'm just curious how this is, if any of this is resonating with you as you immerse yourself in this space.
Thank you. I am brand new, 2 days on the job. I come from a background of running a association for recreational boating. So I encourage you to not only look at the fishing folks, because there's a lot of recreational boaters out there with bored children on their boats as well. So I think that's a great area to explore. So 2 days on the job, I spent yesterday all day looking at the reels from the folks who had applied last year for the solutions and was just blown away. Super excited to be working with so much energy, so many people doing so many amazing things. In fact, I kind of thought to myself, man, I have done nothing with my life in comparison to what some of these people are submitting in the way of solutions. So a reminder, again, anything you can do to help the new girl in the new job get the word out about our call for solutions would be much appreciated. And I'll look forward to reaching out to some of you individually for assistance in the next couple of weeks. So thank you, Daniel, for calling on me.
Oh no, my pleasure. And we just advertised it today to our cohort. So.
Okay.
Speaking of intersection points, literally Opportunity, which Ocean Exchange funds $100,000 awards for innovative ocean impact startups. This is literally the place to connect. And so it's just really cool to see that happen. And thanks for letting me call you out of the blue there. Well, if we don't have any other questions, open up one more real quick just to wait. Anyone else have any questions before we wrap up? All right. Well, I just want to say thank you guys. This is an awesome conversation. Please, everybody join me in thanking both the Mariana Media team and Phil and Rovon. Really enjoyed the perspectives you guys had to share. As Tamara already just put in the chat, we have our big event coming up next week. So feel free to RSVP to that and join us virtually or in person. And beyond that, please, I would encourage both Phil and Ben and the team at Mariana, if you guys want to put your contact info in the chat. I'm sure, as Susan mentioned, and maybe some others here, it'd be great to reach out and connect for all of you. But other than that, I'm happy to take things off the record and stop recording and let us all hang out for a little longer if anyone wants to stick around. But other than that, thank you all so much and great convo today. Thank you guys.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for joining.